Hey everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com. It's a little after 4 o'clock on December 26th, the day after Christmas. And before we take a look at the chart, I need to remind you that the website and the video are for educational purposes only, and nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I am not a licensed financial professional, I'm just a guy that draws lines on charts. So let's take a look. As a way of a little review, just wanted to remind you that at one point in time, we were looking at this as a potential head and shoulders top, but with the failure to stay underneath this neckline, we then kind of shifted our attention to the possibility that we're seeing another continuation pattern, which at the time looked like it might be setting up either as a bull flag between these two orange lines or as an inverted head and shoulders pattern. And I just kind of jokingly mentioned that if we got over this, well, not that this was not a joke. In earnest, I said if we get over this orange line, I would take that as a signal that we will likely come up to challenge the levels in the low 18 teens. And if we can overcome that, then it would look like we may be dealing with an inverted head and shoulders continuation pattern that has a target of about 1848. And the joke part was when we got this little dip right here, I said, is this going to be another one of those inverted head and shoulders patterns that has just this little malformed right shoulder? And I don't want to sound mean or anything, but it's almost like we have a shoulder, we have a head, and then we have a little flipper. just this little, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a little bow to this neckline, and then it goes boom, and we've seen that on a number of occasions. Now, something that's kind of interesting that's going on here too. As we seem to be getting closer and closer to that target of 1848, we are also approaching an area where, depending upon exactly where you draw these lines, and there is a little give and take, if we back out on this to an hourly chart, you can see we may have a little bit of a wedge shape between this top line that is brown and this bottom line that's green right here. And our target is actually a little bit above the apex of that line. As a matter of fact, our high today tagged that apex area. And oftentimes when you get a wedge of some shape, and I'm not saying this is a major one, and it could be that this line right here is just kind of an internal structure, not really as important as maybe a longer term support line, because this only has a couple of touches, but you could see when it broke, we did get a back test. So I'm thinking this is probably at least worth keeping on the chart. But with that in mind, we may be getting up to an area very near this 1848 target where the goings might get a little tougher. As another piece of evidence to that effect, if we examine the trading for the last 3 sessions, you can see that we have a support line down here that actually extends back more than just the last 3 sessions. It looked like we were in this parallel channel, which is the same bottom line applies to both the parallel channel and what I'm going to show you next. So we have this as a support line, this as a potential resistance line, but it looks as if this may now be our resistance line, at least in the very short term. And if that's the case, then our channel may have turned into a wedge. And interesting to note, the apex of this wedge is right up at about 1850, just a little bit more. So there's two potential wedge-ish shaped patterns, one very short term and one a little bit longer term right here, that both seem to be saying there could be some resistance up around 1848, 1850, something like that. So this is what I would do. I would watch this bottom line, because if this is a wedge between here and here that has developed over the past 3 days, then it would be confirmed by a break of this line. Plain and simple. If the line does break, the story goes that you tend to at least want to come back to where the wedge started to form. And you could make the case that the wedge didn't really start to form until we got above this neckline. So if we do break down, I would expect some support in the low 1800s. If we don't break down and we break out over this, then that's great. Then we would start looking at some of our longer term resistance trend lines, as opposed to just this bottom line right here. And again, those say there should be some resistance up here somewhere. Not too far from where we are, maybe 10 points higher before we tag this this line right here. So while this is all fine and dandy, and certainly, oh, by the way, there is no gap here, just in case you're wondering, because we traded on the 18th from a low of about 1767 and made a beeline, straight line, to about 1810. So while you might be tempted to look at this and think this is a gap, it really isn't. It was just a very strong and sharp move on the word that interest rates would be kept low. So I would watch this line on the 5-minute chart. I don't think if this breaks that means it's the end of the world. I just think it means we're going to probably shed a 1.5%, 2% to come down and test some support. But guys, this market just keeps tooling on up. Let's see what happens tomorrow on Friday, the 27th, and shoot, enjoy it. You know, oftentimes people say, well, what about tax loss selling? Well, it could have been that we saw some of that tax loss selling take place more in the middle of December. So this is going to be very interesting to see how things finish out this year. And do we have a January effect? Can we possibly have a January effect? When you look at this chart right here, which has really, for the past, let's go to a 2-day chart, it's been nothing but up. Let's put it that way. We've had some corrections along the way, but from about I would say easily from November of 2012, this has been nothing but a move up. You could even go back and say that from the middle of summer of 2012, it's been nothing but up, with just this one fairly decent move down. So guys, there's your video for December 26, 2013. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch it. Thank you for your support, and take care.